It's not how much muscle you have that counts today. That may have been it 150 years ago, not today. Your success depends on how much critical information you possess. You know, one of the most famous men in the world, still alive in his 90s, is Billy Graham. He said two things that shocked his listeners. I said, what are the two things? He said, if I was to live my life over again, I would give 3 times as much time to learning, and I would take less meetings. And secondly, I would give more time to prayer. So Billy Graham, a very intelligent man, said if he lived again, 3 times as much time he would devote to learning, to getting information. I want you to think of the ancients, way, way back. They got all their information from their senses, from their eyes, their ears, their taste, and from touch. These were the things that gave information to the ancient. Their senses. It's not like that now. Along came the alphabet, no longer pictograph, no longer hieroglyphics. Alphabets that were hard to master, but essential to master. And then in the 1400s, there was Johann Gutenberg with his movable type. And now people seem to lapse from their communities, put their back to the wall and read books. Books made all the difference. A few hundred years more and along came Samuel Morse. And Samuel Morse gave us the beginning of electrical communication. So now we have computers, internets, mobile phones and the like, because we must have information. Very few people went to university when I was a boy in the 1930s. Now you must go. We need the information that the universities can give us. There are all sorts of hazards at universities. Many people lose their Christian experience there unnecessarily, but it happens. This is a century where critical information is essential. Ideas change everything. Have you got the right ideas? Half the world turned communist by the middle of the last century. Caused more millions of death by far than World War II. It began with the ideas of a man who couldn't even handle money. Karl Marx, a Jew, turned Christian because of country laws. Rarely washed, unclean, ate foods that were highly spiced, so he had boils for 25 years and with them a bad temper. But he couldn't handle money. He was always borrowing money, and when the bills came in he was so angry. And when he saw the interest charge, he said, "This is not human, this is wicked." He was a hard man to live with. His 3 daughters suicided. He had a wonderful wife who loved him at the beginning and who found it hard to tolerate him at the end. His mother said, "I wish Karl would earn some capital than all the time borrowing it and complaining about it." He was a very difficult man. He was entirely desk-bound. Spent the last 34 years of his life at the University Museum Library of London, where he collated a lot of material which he distorted in order to write his first book, Das Kapital. It was his friend Friedrich Engels who gathered his materials to make the second and third volume. But those books changed the world. They changed Russia. So we had a bloody revolution in 1917. They changed China. Mao was responsible for the death of at least 40 million Chinese because of the ideas, what he thought was information from Karl Marx. The information of medicine is very vital to us in this 21st century. Did you know that almost everybody in the Western world over 55 years of age has arthritis? It's because of the way we live, our lifestyle. A very famous man, Albert Schweitzer, said cancer is a disease of civilization, but so are many other diseases. Did you know that the more meat you eat, the more likely you are to get colorectal cancer? If you eat 52 grams extra of meat per day, you add to your likelihood of heart disease by 38%. The main killers today are cancer, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, and all of them come largely from the way we eat. There were practically no processed foods in bulk in the 19th century. It was in the 20th century they came into their own, and they are suicidal. If you live on foods out of bottles and cans and packets, you are sure, certain, it's absolute, to find pain, sickness, hospitalisation, and an early death. If you sit too much, that's worse than smoking. If you don't exercise, except for pushing a food trolley at the supermarket, that's more dangerous than smoking. So we've learnt a lot about lifestyle because of the growth in medicine. Of course, the main invention of medicine was sanitation. We have to remember that in one country alone, 200,000 people die every year because of the wrong use of medicine. Prescriptions, legal medical prescriptions, often hasten death. We've learned about geography in health. Where you choose to live has a great deal to do with the quality of life and the quantity of life. Technology taints the air we breathe, pollutes the food we eat. Very important where you live. Very important what you eat. And so we live in a world where information is essential. Information on how to live, how to eat, how to exercise, how to choose. Information is the second characteristic of our new world, and we must deal with it rightly.